You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. And on today's episode of the podcast, we are reviewing match number 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2024 between Australia and Namibia. And it was a very comprehensive victory by Australia with both bat and ball. Too strong for Namibia in the end, and in the process have booked their place in the Super 8's with this comprehensive victory over Namibia. And therefore, Australia are through to the Super 8 stage of the tournament with only one group match to play still, and that will be against Scotland in a few days' time. On the other hand, for Namibia, it was a tough day at the office. Couldn't handle Australia's pressure and struggled with both bat and ball. Had a very disappointing batting performance, and with the ball, were put under severe pressure by Australia's destructive batters. And it was a disappointing performance by Namibia, but certainly lots to take out from the game for them going forward. And hopefully for them, they'll definitely reflect on this performance and hopefully implement the learnings for their last game of this tournament, because Namibia are not going to go through to the Super 8's, but they've only got one more game to go, and that's against England. So hopefully they can upset England's party as England try to qualify for the Super 8's. Maybe Namibia can do something. An opportunity for them to finish the tournament on a good note after this crushing defeat at the hands of Australia. So with that being said, this match was pretty much going in one direction. That was Australia's direction. So there's not a lot to talk about, but we'll try and talk about a few things in this game for both sides and how they went about their business. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's have a look at the match summary from match number 24 of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2024 between Australia and Namibia from the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. Well, Namibia batted first, and they were bowled out for 72 in 17 overs. The captain, Jared Erasmus, top scored with 36, and Adam Zampa took 4 wickets for Australia. Australia needed 73 runs to win. They finished on 1 for 74 from 5.4 overs. They chased down the runs in no time. Travis Head top scored with 34 not out of 17 balls, and David Visser took 1 wicket for Namibia. Australia won by 9 wickets, and Adam Zampa was named player of the match. What were the key moments and key factors from match number 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup 2024 between Australia and Namibia? Well, Jared Erasmus' innings of 36 was key for Namibia to guide them to that 72 all-out total. At one stage, Namibia didn't look like passing 50, but the innings from the captain of Namibia was able to get them to that 72 all-out score. And also the Warner and Travis Head partnership, opening partnership of 21, set the tone for the Australian innings. And Australia were able to cruise to the target of 72 in no time in just 5.4 overs. And that really set the tone for Australia in the run chase. And in the end, it was a very dominant batting performance. So those were the key moments and key factors from match number 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup 2024 between Australia and Namibia. Let's talk about how both Australia and Namibia went about things in this match and their performance. And we'll start with Australia and talk about their performance with bat and ball. And we'll start with the batting group and talk about the batters. What can you say? It was a very clinical batting performance by Australia, made light work of chasing Namibia's 72 all-out target in just 5.4 overs. So they only had 2 balls left at the power play, and pretty much the job was done. I think it took Australia around about 20-odd minutes to chase down the runs, which I think is some sort of record in T20 internationals and probably a record in T20 World Cups as well. They punished the Namibian bowlers, really. You know, Namibia, their bowlers are medium pace. They don't have that pace to hurry the Australian batters. They weren't challenged. They weren't put under pressure. And Australia just put that pressure back on the bowling group of Namibia. Basically, when you're defending 72, you're in a very tricky situation. David Warner, Travis Head, Mitchell Marsh getting the job done in the end. All of them battered in this game for Australia. And from an Australian perspective, good to see them scoring runs. Good to see Warner and Head, that opening partnership, continue to blossom and deliver and get Australia off to good starts. We've seen that throughout the group stage thus far from Australia. And also Mitchell Marsh, the captain, getting some time in the middle. I think Australia will be very grateful that the top three is getting some time in the middle. And really, your top three really sets up the foundation for you in T20 cricket when it comes to the batting side of things. So I think Australia would be pleased to see them get some runs. The David Warner, Travis Head opening partnership of 21 set the tone for the innings, and obviously followed by the Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head partnership, which was 53 unbeaten for the second wicket, pretty much finished off the job. So I think they'll be very pleased. Australia was a very dominant performance. In the context of things, they've already qualified for the Super 8s. The net run rate doesn't really matter, but their net run rate has taken a significant boost after this dominant batting performance against Namibia, only chasing the runs down in 5.4 overs. But that doesn't really matter. They've already qualified for the Super 8s. And more importantly, the batting group, the top three especially, Warner, Head and Mitchell Marsh, got some time in the middle. So other than that, pretty straightforward performance with the bat, dominant by Australia. We'll move on and talk about the Australian bowlers and talk about their performance in this match against Namibia. What can you say? Pretty much like the batting, there was a dominant bowling performance. And bowling Namibia out for 72 showed that. And the Australian bowlers kept Namibia's batters under pressure throughout the innings. They picked up wickets at regular intervals to keep the pressure on. It's just a very clinical bowling performance by Australia. Adam Zampa, yet again, 4 wickets for 12 runs in his 4 overs. Just like in the game against England, being the important bowler for Australia. And we've talked about that numerous occasions for Adam Zampa, that he is the key bowler for Australia in this T20 World Cup, especially in the Caribbean, where wickets are going to turn and require a bit of assistance for the spinners. He's going to be the one that's got to stand up and really do the job with the ball. And he's certainly done that in this T20 World Cup. The game against England, he was good. The game against Namibia, 4 for 12, also becoming the first Australian bowler to get 100 T20 international wickets in the process in this game as well. A good achievement there from Zampa. So it's good to see him bowling well, leading the attack from the front. He was definitely the best bowler that Australia had in this game. And then you had the other bowlers chipping in, Cummins and Ellis, and obviously Hazelwood picking up 1 and 2 wickets, same with Stoinis as well. So everyone doing their job. And for the Australian bowling attack, I think they'll be pleased with how the bowling effort and performance is going so far in this T20 World Cup. In all the games they've played, the bowlers have done very well. They've picked up wickets, they've put pressure on the opposition, and the bowling attack looks really good. And I think they'll be very pleased with that. Australia going forward for the Super 8s stage of the tournament, but also the last game against Scotland in the group stage. I think they'll be very pleased that the bowling attack is firing and hoping to continue on that momentum. And once again, it was a dominant bowling performance, really. Nothing more to add about the Australian bowlers. Just dominant, really. So overall, a very dominant performance by Australia with both bat and ball in this game against Namibia. We move on and talk about Namibia. Let's talk about their performance in this match against Australia. Let's start with the batters and talk about their performance for Namibia in this match. Pretty poor from Namibia, it has to be said. Below par batting performance, bowled out for 72, that showed that. All the batters struggled against Australia's bowlers with that skill set and speed that the Australian bowlers possess. Of course, Namibia were always going to find it difficult against this Australian team, especially the bowling attack, very world-class bowling attack, and they struggled immensely. There was only 2 batters that got double figures. That was Gerard Erasmus, the captain, 36, and Michael van Lingren with 10. Everyone else failed to get to a double-figure score. So it just showed that really the talent and the gap between the two sides was evident. And you can certainly see that with the batting performance by Namibia. Gerard Erasmus, the captain, he's been probably one of the most consistent batters for Namibia in this T20 World Cup, and Namibia had to rely on him in this innings to try and get them to some sort of score. And in a way, he sort of did that. He sort of held the innings together at one end a little bit. When wickets were falling at the other end, he was at the other end being a constant. He held the innings together up until he got out towards the end. But other than that, pretty poor batting performance from Namibia. They've been a bit up and down with their batting throughout this tournament, and they'll be disappointed with their performance here. But there's plenty of learnings. There's plenty of things to reflect on. There's plenty of things to learn about this performance. How can they go about things going forward? And I think, they'll be disappointed, but they can definitely take a lot out of this game going forward. I think whenever you're an associate side like Namibia, and we've seen in this T20 World Cup thus far, many of the associate nations, you will learn a lot from playing the world's best teams in the world. Yes, this performance, they went backwards, Namibia, with the bat, but you got to look at this and say, we were out-talented, outclassed by an Australian team that's red-hot favourites to win this tournament. But what we can do is learn from this setback, and hopefully going into the next game, which is against England, their last game of this tournament, Namibia, because they won't qualify for the Super 8s. They're pretty much out. It's all about let's see what we can do in that match and learn from this game against Australia. So the batting group will be disappointed, but, they've got a lot of things to work on. We'll move on, talk about the bowling quickly for Namibia. Basically, nothing much to talk about the bowling performance. Really, when you're defending 72 as a bowling group, it's always going to be a difficult task. The bowlers were under the pump from the get-go. Australia just punished the bowling, and that medium pace of the Namibian bowlers didn't trouble Australia all that much, really. When you bowl medium pace to the likes of Warner Head and Mitchell Marsh, you're going to get punished. If you get slightly off your line and length, you're going to get punished as well. And that's what happened. And that's what happened in this game here with Namibia and their bowlers. Really, as I mentioned, 72. It's not a lot of runs to play with. Of course, a bowling side in any team is going to find that difficult. And, the bowling group were tested and were put under immense pressure. So plenty of things for them to work on and look at going into the next game for Namibia in this tournament. Other than that, overall, Namibia will be disappointed with this performance, but they don't play Australia that often. It's an opportunity to learn and see what they can do better going forward into their last game against England in this T20 World Cup. My final thoughts from this game between Australia and Namibia to conclude our match review today. It was pretty much a dominant performance by Australia with both bat and ball, showing why they are the best team in this tournament amongst the other contenders to win this T20 World Cup, and also in the process have booked their place in the Super 8s with a very good victory over Namibia here. Australia's next game is against Scotland, and that will be on June the 16th at the Darren Sammy National Cricket Stadium. And Australia will be looking to finish off this, the group stage with a win over Scotland. They do go into that game as favourites. Also, this game will determine whether England will qualify for the Super 8s or not. That's been spoken about quite a lot in the lead up to this match, and some words have been said and all that. So we won't get into that. I think everyone knows the commentary around this game, but no doubt Australia will be looking to continue on the momentum. And they may rest some players as well. That's usually the case. They've already qualified. They can do that. But I think for team cohesion and unity, I don't think they want to upset the team all that much. You want to continue on this winning momentum. And obviously for Scotland, we've seen from Scotland in this group stage, they've played some good cricket. They've won some games. Obviously the game against England was washed out for them, but they batted well there, put it on 90 and 10 overs for the openers. So I think Australia will definitely go into that game knowing that Scotland will compete and will give it a good fight, because if Scotland do win that game, you never know, they will qualify for a Super 8 berth, and therefore knocking out England in the process. So that game will be interesting to see. That will be the last game of the group, and that's before that will take place after England play their last game against Namibia. And moving on to Namibia, for them, it was their first ever T20 International against Australia, and playing Australia for the first time since Australia played Namibia almost 20 plus years ago in that 2003 Cricket World Cup match where Glenn McGrath took 7 wickets. For Namibia, 20 years later, another opportunity to play against Australia. Unfortunately, the same result, a crushing defeat, and it was an underwhelming performance. Really, the gap between Australia and Namibia is quite big, obviously, in terms of the skill set. That's what you'll expect from a full member nation coming up against an associate nation, and that's been the case in this T20 World Cup with a 20-team format. But for Namibia, they'll be disappointed. There's lots to take out of this game. Their next game is against England, and that will be on June the 16th. And that will be at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. And Namibia, they won't be qualifying for the Super 8s, but they can end the tournament with a win and end on a good note, and also prevent England from qualifying for the Super 8s. Obviously, for England, they need to win their last 2 games. For Namibia, they could upset the party. They could beat England. You never know. So they'll be hoping to end the tournament on a high, but they'll be disappointed about this performance. It was a disappointing performance, but for Namibia, I suppose you got to experience these types of losses. It definitely makes you a better cricket team for it, just to learn from it and move forward and hopefully end the tournament on a very good note. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening to our review of match number 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup 2024 between Australia and Namibia. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the podcast on our YouTube channel, let us know your thoughts on match number 24 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2024 between Australia and Namibia in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.